Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. My name is Daniel. I'm with VantagePoint AI, and welcome to today's live session. We're going to give it just a couple of minutes to give everybody the opportunity to get signed in and make sure that they can participate in today's training. We've got some really good stuff on deck today. I've been getting a lot of questions around the tech sector, a lot of questions around the tech leaders, and probably for about a week and a half, 2 weeks now. So I thought today would be a great opportunity to dig into what I see on the VantagePoint charts and walking through the details so that you, whether you're a VantagePoint family member, a VantagePoint user or not, can understand how the artificial intelligence sees the current and future market when it comes to the technology sector. So if you are in the live right now and you can see my screen and you can hear my voice or you can see my face and you can hear my voice, hop over into the chat. I see Teddy's in the chat. How are you, sir? If you're here and you can see me and you can hear me, again, just do me a favor and pop into the chat and say hello. I'm gonna just write hello in the chat so you know it's me. And this way I know that we are cooking with gas and we are ready to go. Hey, Donovan. Good, good, good. Glad you're here. All right, fantastic. Michael, hello. Bert, hello, hello. All right. Looks like everything's working. If everybody can hear me okay and can write in and everything's working from that standpoint, then we're good to shove off. Speaking of shove off, yes, I did get a little sun this weekend. I got a little sunburnt, went out on the boat, had a good time. But hey, Marvell. But it was, I mean, the weather was just fantastic. I couldn't resist. So, all right, let me share my screen and let's dive in here. I'm going to start out with any analysis I do, just so we're on the same page. Any analysis I do, I always start when I sit down at my computer to do any analysis at any time. I'm going to do what I like to call the market overview. I like to just take a look at the markets. I do an in-depth market overview. I'm just going to do a shorter lived one here just for sake of time. I want to make sure that you get as much information and education from this session as you can in a short amount of time. So before I do that, let me make sure we're on the same page. I'm providing trading education. I'm not an advisor. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm sharing with you some analysis that I see in the VantagePoint software. I've been utilizing this software for about 15 years now. I've been in the financial markets for over 25 years. And my goal is to provide education and information utilizing artificial intelligence software called VantagePoint. I'm going to show you some hypothetical gains. I'm going to show you some interpretation techniques, some indicators, and some strategies that you could very well do yourself, but I'm going to use VantagePoint's AI to dig into the details. Is there anybody here that's in the session right now that is currently a VantagePoint family member? You're a user of the software, you have the software. If you are in this session, just go into the chat box and say hello. I always like to say hi to our family members, our users, because at the end of the day, this training is available for everybody. So you don't have to have the VantagePoint software to learn from this session today or any other day. And as a matter of fact, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please subscribe because you'll get notified when these sessions come up. Hey, Mojo, I see you there. Yep, Michael. Okay, yes, you are. All right, good. So we have some VantagePoint users, we have some non-users, which is perfect. I'm going to explain the information in a way that I think everybody should be able to pick it up. Hey, Charles. Hi, Clarence. 100% in it. Michael, I love it. I love the exclamation points on that too. All right, so here is the SPY. And when I say market overview, let me just explain a little bit of what I mean when I say market overview. What I mean is I want to understand what the overall flow of the markets are doing. I want to know what the SPY is doing. I want to know what the Qs are doing. I even look at diamonds. I look at those overall markets to get a sense of the direction that they're expected to go, because I know it is much easier to swim with the stream than against it. There's always counter trend trades out there I can take advantage of. But right now, what I'm interested in doing is going with the flow, with the trend, and then forecasting it with the artificial intelligence. So if you look at my screen, you can see we are looking at the SPY. This data came out at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time last night. We get a new forecast every single day for the next 1 to 3 trading days, and this is the forecast that's available until 6:30 tonight, right? So, hey, Sarah, Philip, glad you're in here. I'm just seeing the comments roll in, so thank you for getting involved. At 6:30 last night, what the software did is it told me what the SPY is expected to do today. And how I use that information is to determine whether I'm exiting positions, I'm mitigating losses, I'm adding to positions, tightening stop losses. I'm making some trade decision based off of my trade plan, based on what the markets are saying. So in this case, I can see the S&P 500. If you look on the right-hand side of the chart, that's what I'm analyzing. I just want to see what it looks like over here on the right because this is the forecast. The blue line being above the gray line is indicating that I'm still expecting some more bullishness in this trend, right? It's not, the line isn't getting wider. As a matter of fact, it's kind of flattened out. It's about the same distance it was the day before, which tells me there is still bullishness left in this trend, but I'm not expecting a rally today. I look at the neural index, I see some bullishness as well. We're all good. Matter of fact, we've been bullish on the neural index for days and days and days. For those of you that don't have the software, let me explain what this is telling me. This blue line being pointed up and above the gray line is telling me that the trend, see if I can write it with a mouse. Oh, pretty good so far. That the trend is expected to continue bullishly over the next couple of days. This neural index being green at the bottom is basically telling me that the strength has some bullishness in it over the next couple of days. So in this situation, I've got trend indicating bullishness from the AI. I've got strength indicating bullishness from the AI. And then I have my momentum indicators down here at the bottom. I have a 1 day, look right here on the left. This is a 1 day predicted momentum. This is a 2 day predicted momentum line. And the navy blue line is a 3 day predicted momentum line. If you're a momentum trader, at least you understand the impact that momentum can have on a trend. These lines are extremely valuable. Even if you don't know the impact yet, listen to what I'm saying. If momentum is building bullishly, and now these are predicted momentum indicators. We hold a patent on predicting indicators and predicting markets using intermarket analysis. We have 2 patents, by the way. So if the blue line is slightly pointed up and creating slightly higher highs from the beginning of this trend till now, that tells me that there is still bullish momentum over the next 3 days. My 2 day indicator, the pink one, is not creating higher highs. As a matter of fact, you can see right here, it's just kind of sideways. Somebody might even say it's creating lower highs instead of higher lows, which would indicate either bearish or consolidated. My 1 day predicted momentum is certainly giving me bearishness as well. I've got lower highs. I've got a downtrend here at the end. So I have 1, 2, so far, 2 indicators saying bullish, 3 indicators saying bullish, and 2 indicators saying bearish or consolidated. So right away I know the S&P 500, even though it has some bullishness left in the trend, I know that today and the next couple of days from yesterday, so Tuesday, Wednesday or so, have some consolidation to bearishness in it. Now, if I look over here on the right-hand side, I've got the predicted high and the predicted low. This is a gray bar that has a green top and a green bottom, indicating I'm expecting a slightly higher high and a slightly higher low. All right, if you see that, then what that's saying is that's where we're expecting the S&P to trade today compared to where it traded yesterday. Kind of sideways, top half of that bar, right? It doesn't mean it's going to be an up day or down day. It just means that overall price is expected to be a little bit higher from a high and a little bit higher from a low. And both of those conditions give me more bullish confidence. Now, let me just remind everybody, when I say bullish confidence, what I mean there is the overall price trend is still expected to move higher. It doesn't mean an up day or a down day, right? VantagePoint is not predicting an up day or a down day. It's predicting the direction that a trend can go, whether it's got strength and momentum behind it. So far, the SPY from the beginning of this forecast until yesterday's close, and even where it is today, I'll go to the bottom of that predicted candle, is up about, call it 10% roughly in 19 trading days, about 0.5% a day. Now, how do I know that that's the forecast? Well, look, this is where the crossover happened. It went from a bearish forecast to a bullish forecast right here on this day. The neural index was green, and I was getting higher lows on my momentum indicators as well. All those lines were pointed up, saying, hey, there is certainly bullishness happening here, here, and here. And as long as that blue line stays above that gray line and that shaded area stays green, I can continue riding that trend. Now, understand one thing. There are always down days in an uptrend, right? That's always going to happen. Nothing is predicting the up or whether it's an up day or down day in the software, but it's telling you with a high degree of accuracy, up to 87.4%, that this trend is expected to consolidate but still float a little bit higher. All right. Now let's take it a step further. Let's add some support and a resistance to this, because I love making sure that support and resistance are there that can provide me some edge and some advantage. And in this case, I see an old price point way up here above 610. And I see an old price point right here that hit a couple of times. You can see what happened when price jumped through that, right? See that gap right there over that old price point? We got a couple of closes up here, and then it kept on going. I have room to that next price point, but I am getting a lot of bearish pressure because it's getting very deep into what I call a verified resistance zone. This red shaded area is a zone where there's always going to be downward pressure on price until it clears that zone with a couple of closes. Now momentum, bullish momentum, can help me clear that zone because momentum and volume provide enough force to break through those levels. So I'm going to put volume on here too. All right, so I've got momentum, slightly bullish, but also consolidating and bearish. So I don't have enough momentum that I like. I also have, from a overall volume standpoint, decreasing bullish volume. Now I don't have bearish volume, but I do have decreasing bullish volume, which tells me that this has got some weakness to it with, I can expect consolidation. I can expect a sideways day from yesterday and downward pressure from this resistance. I would expect going into today that the S&P would be trading right within that gray bar. And it did. And it was a down day. But I had this information at 6:30 last night, so I was prepared for this kind of market movement. That is the SPY, right? I can do the very same thing on the Qs. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and add volume. I'm going to add support and resistance just so that you can see some of the indicators. I like to use this as a very small handful of them. But I do like to use a lot of indicators so I can walk away with a more comprehensive view. I like to use seasonals. I like to use volume studies, reversion to mean analysis. I use a lot of different types of non-redundant indicators that I'm not going to walk through on today's call because there's a lot of them there that our users really find a lot of value in. But I like to use support and resistance, volume and momentum on almost every single analysis I do. And some of the volume and momentum indicators I like to use are the RSI. I like to use MACD, stochastics, especially predicted stochastic or predicted percent R from Larry Williams. I can really add a lot of optional add-on indicators to my chart if I want to. The whole goal here is to understand from the Qs, what am I expecting to happen going into the next couple of trade days? Remember, this came out at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time last night. Do me a favor. If in the chat, you're looking at the chat and you're saying, okay, you're looking at this chart and saying, all right, what I see is consolidation, a little bit of consolidated to bearish volume and consolidation, and the neural index being green, getting into the zone. I see exactly the same setup that I see on the SPY. If I said to you, what I see on the NASDAQ matches what we saw on the SPY, what would you expect the NASDAQ to have done today based off of this forecast? If you were in my shoes, and you had this information at 6:30, or one of our users on the line, a lot of people here have the software, but if you saw this, would you expect the market to float sideways, to be consolidated, basically to be in line with these bars that happen right here, right? That's a consolidating market, right? Go to the chat real quick and let me know if it's clear enough to see that I've got bullishness here. I've got downward pressure from support and resistance, or in this case, resistance up here. I have momentum flattening out and volume flattening out to turning bearish. Is there enough there for you to realize that, hey, right now there's some consolidation happening? Now, there you go. Charles says sideways. I like it. Michael agrees. Barbara says consolidate. Okay, good. That's how we want to read this. And the reason I want to read it that way is because I just want to step through indicators step by step so that I'm not confused by what I see. I even count them up. We teach something here called the AI sentiment checklist process. And what that does is you look at one indicator and you say, all right, if I've got bullish, I do this every single time, but I want to make sure everybody understands how to use multiple indicators without getting confused. I got bullish up top, bearish down here, and I just add them up, right? 1 point for the bullish, predicted high and predicted low, that is 2 more points for the bullish. The neural index is green, that's another point for bullish. I've got one momentum that's bullish and when I've got one that is bearish, and I've got one that's consolidated. All right, we'll put consolidated here too, right? I can go through and I can read all of these indicators. I got consolidated here. I got consolidated to bearish here. I'm going to be on the cautious side here and just say bearish from volume. I've got consolidated bearish here on percent R, right? I'm going to be conservative there. So I have 5 saying bullish and I have 5 combined saying bearish or consolidated. What that means is split decision, market's expected to move sideways, right? Think about that. If I don't have a convincing direction, bullish or bearish, that is convincing, then I've got to understand that there's some consolidation happening. So what do I do in those consolidated scenarios? Well, if I'm trading the Qs, then I've got to find a good stop loss that is below the predicted low right here, and also outside of the low of the last 72 hours, or at least one ATR below the close from yesterday. I need to be enough room to allow the market some room to wiggle, so that if it does pull back enough, I get stopped out with a nice big gain, or if it pulls back a little bit, I don't get stopped out and I can live to ride that trend another day. A lot of different ways to use VantagePoint and different indicators that set stop losses. Those are a couple of ways I wanted to share. Now, let's do the same thing. I'm going to go to XLK, and here is the tech sector ETF. Just look on the right-hand side of the screen. Look, I'm going to zoom in and show you. If I go to my one-day trend forecast, you can see that there is consolidation on the one-day trend on XLK. So if you're wondering whether or not this is a tech pullback, a tech reversal, or an opportunity to buy the dip, that's what we're going to walk through right now, because that's what today's session is about. We're going to walk through this ETF. We're going to walk through some tech sectors, some tech stocks, and see if it is a buy the dip scenario, or if it's a wait and see scenario, or if it's, hey, mitigate some losses. In this case, the one-day forecast here, this one-day trend forecast is saying consolidation. I'm going to go switch this to the two-day trend forecast right here, the medium term. This is saying still some bullishness left in it. That blue line is nicely above and pointed up. I'm also going to go to the three-day trend forecast because we do all 3 of those, and I've got the same situation as the Qs on XLK, saying that there is still some more bullishness left in this trend. I look at the predicted high and predicted low. They're both, the top half are green, the bottom half's green, which means a higher high is expected and a higher low. I believe there was a question from somebody if the bottom of this was red, what would that mean? That would mean it's predicting a lower low, something down here, right? So we use the color coding on the predicted bar, which this was predicted for today, to understand whether or not we're expecting higher highs or higher lows. Again, walking through these indicators step by step gives me and you the ability to see a very clear picture of what's expected to happen. Now you might be asking, how is the AI able to do that? Let me show you really quickly. This is one of the patents, and if you're a VantagePoint family member, you already know what this is and how it works. Let me just pull up that window here for a second. I might have lost it. I did. Here it is. All right, here are the markets that the AI has figured out influence XLK. That's the technology spider. You can see that there's BlackRock's in here, right? You can see Canadian Solar in here. You can see Radware, AutoZone. There's a list of stocks here that are driving the technology spider outside of the stocks that make up the technology spider, XLK, including the Japanese yen, the euro, right? You guys can see all this, the dollar, light sweet crude oil. All of these markets drive and influence and impact the price of the S&P 500, the XLK, technology spider. The question is, how do we know that? Well, the AI is analyzing millions and millions of data points every single day. And it's figured that out, and then it can figure out what the stock, or that ETF in this case, is expected to do based on that information. So let's keep doing our analysis. We've got bullishness here. This looks a lot like the Qs. We got bullishness here, although it's rounding out, and we got bearishness here. So XLK is saying right now, from a VantagePoint standpoint, that we could expect a little bit bullishness today, but a consolidated type of bullishness. We wouldn't see anything higher than this. You can see where that predicted high is. The software is saying, you know what? XLK has some consolidation happening, but all in all, there could be some more bullishness left in this trend. So stop and think about that for a second. Let me ask you a question. If the SPY if the Qs and XLK are expected to consolidate but still have some bullishness in the trend, what would you do about your tech stock positions? Right now, with the limited information you have, and you can guess, this is a learning environment, don't worry, go into the chat and tell me if the S&P and the NASDAQ and the XLK ETF are bullish but consolidating. How would that, what decision would you make around any tech positions that you have with that kind of information? And by the way, if you're looking at this and you're realizing how valuable this can be for you and you don't have it, or maybe you've got some one-on-one questions you want to dig into, we just put a link in the chat for VantagePointForecast.com. Click that link, fill it out. We'll be happy to reach out to you and answer any questions. Mojo says, wait and see. Charles says, I'm going to hold them. And if I'm not in, I would wait to see, says Michael. Okay, Jacob says it might be time to buy them with a little bit of pullback. Barbaro says hedge. Everybody's thinking about the same thing. Everybody's thinking about the same thing. Maybe a slightly different answer, but we're all thinking about the same thing where it's like, oh, okay, I've got a little pullback happening, not a major reversal forecasted just yet. So if I'm riding a position, maybe I want to tighten up my stops. If I'm holding a option and I've got a couple calls on this thing, maybe I take one off to lock in some money. But right now we're in that consolidated situation. Good. You're thinking about it the right way, right? Protect your downside by using some techniques that can help you protect your downside, like stop losses or even writing covered calls and different things like that until this thing starts to move back up again. All right. All right. Now, I'm not giving you trading advice. I'm just telling you what the artificial intelligence is saying here and how I read it. Here is Palantir, and I'm just zooming in on Palantir so you can see the right-hand side here. Check this out. This is the dip I was talking about when I titled today's session. We can see a 4-day pullback on Palantir. Well, if we go back to XLK, what do we see? A 4-day consolidation on XLK. So we've got confirmation from the indice, from the ETF, that is the tech sector, that there is consolidation happening, and I've got confirmation from the individual stock saying the same thing. Matter of fact, Palantir has a little red top on this predicted high and low saying, hey, you know what? This stock is actually expected to have a little bit more weakness than the ETF and the index, all right? We also see that the neural index is red. Again, another indication that Palantir, not necessarily that it's a down day, but the typical price or the average price today could expect some more bearishness. And from a momentum standpoint, you can see we have at least 2 momentum indicators that are saying consolidated or bearish. The 2-day is not. The 2-day is still strong. So that means we would expect Palantir to be right here in the bottom part of this candle from my perspective. And I haven't even done my my other momentum readings. I haven't done anything from a support and resistance standpoint. So let me do that real quick. Let's see. Support and resistance. Here we go. I wonder if this is a 52-week high. I'm going to add that in there as well. Ah, look at that. We got a 52-week high 4 days ago. That is a very powerful resistance level. And you can see why every candle has failed off of that since then, because it's very powerful. And our momentum at the same time it set that 52-week high went sideways to bearish. If you're losing momentum and volume is not as strong as it can be, let me go find volume and put it on here. You're losing momentum, you're losing volume at the same point you set a 52-week high. This is clearly a pullback dip that I've got to be aware of. This is a scenario where I can either exit that position and wait for another pop above it, or protect my downside depending on where I got in. Let it vacillate a little bit before it booms again. But right now, what VantagePoint is indicating is that there is more bearishness on Palantir by itself. It's not indicating a trend reversal, but I would use this information to certainly mitigate any potential losses or hedge any types of situations I'm in to maximize my opportunities here. Because again, I'm going to go back to it. And if you haven't taken notes on this, please write this down. What are the overall markets saying? The S&P, the Dow, and the NASDAQ, what are they saying? What are the ETFs for the sectors that I'm either trading or interested in trading in? What are they saying, right? You can go as far as say, what is a dollar and gold saying? What is oil saying? I do all of that overview, but at a minimum, the sector that the stock is a part of and the SPY, the Qs, and the diamonds are all good to get a good market overview and help you protect your downside. right? Rocky Top, go ahead and go to VantagePointForecast.com. You're asking about is VantagePoint a purchase or a subscription? I guess whether it's a purchase or a subscription, it is something that you would still pay for, and we can help you either way. Let's go to Meta. Here's by the way, Meta had a really, really great move on it again. I've got support and resistance on this chart. I'm zooming into the last forecast. When I say a really, really great move, guys, check this out. This is the trend that's currently on, 17% in 17 trading days, hypothetical gain here. If you had 10 contracts, look at that. That's 10 contracts is a substantial gain, probably a $50,000, $60,000 winner right there in that time period. Even if you just had one contract, that is a substantial winner right there in the last 17 trading days, hypothetical gain about $9,000. So I'm going to go ahead and kick that off the screen because we want to know, what does it say now about Meta, right? Well, if you look at the Meta chart, it probably looks very familiar to what we've been talking about. I'm going to check if this is a 52-week high. I'm going to put on volume. I'm going to put on a couple of things here. Let's see. We got support and resistance on there already. Where was I? 52-week. There we go. All right, so these are some of the indicators I use, the beginning part of my indicators, to say what's expected to happen. This is a very high of the last year. We have a couple of resistance levels to work through to even get up there, so I'm not worried about it coming to a high just yet, so I can remove that off of the screen. I can see I'm getting a very similar view as the NASDAQ, a little bit like Palantir as well, where momentum and volume are kind of weakening and falling off at the same time that price is pulling back a little bit. I've got a higher high predicted today and a higher low predicted today. I don't think that's going to happen based on what I'm seeing with the neural index. But what I can tell you is that where I would expect Meta to trade based on the information I'm seeing is dead sideways. And that's pretty clearly identified based on all of the analysis that we've done so far, is that there is certainly some bearishness and some consolidation expected in Meta, similar to Palantir, similar to XLK. They are all part of that, that industry, that sector, so it's important to understand that. All right, let's see. Michael, let me see what you're asking. Show us how to do that again, please. You're going to have to give me a little bit more information, Michael. I'm sorry, the timing, I didn't see the message, so I don't know exactly what that is. So if you want to just detail that out a little bit more in the comments, I'd be happy to show you what I did again. All right, and that goes for anybody. If you've got a question or you've got a ticker or something you want to take a look at or ask about, the chat box is open. We're there. We're available. I'm keeping my eye on it, as you can tell, because my goal is to provide you information and education that you can help. Oh, the profit. Okay. So right here on the right-hand side, there's this line. I can click on this line right here. It looks like a trend line. I click at the beginning of a candle and hold my left mouse, and then I drag my mouse, and now that line is attached, and I go to the end of the candle, wherever I want it, and I let go. And then I right-click on that line, and I tell it to profit calc. That gives me the ability to, do some analysis either in dollars or either in shares, however you like to do it. It gives you the ability to do some analysis there. All right. There you go, Michael. I'm glad you asked. Michael, the other Michael said, I think you meant the contract. Okay. They think you were right. The two Michaels might be in sync. Mike, a different Mike says, is the buy signal, a green arrow, a lagging indicator based on the blue line crossed off the gray? No, the arrows are support or resistance points that identify old price points that could have an impact on future price. And then we make them a verified support or resistance zone by connecting them to the next level down or up, so that you can see the area at which price is going to struggle to either break to the downside or struggle to break to the upside. So we show you those so that when you're using the predictive information in conjunction with support and resistance, you've got some guardrails. These are extra indicators. They're not required, but they're there for individual traders that want to use support and resistance to understand what the market is expected to do in conjunction with the predictive indicators. Thank you. Appreciate you asking. All right. So let's look. Jeff, we'll look at United Healthcare. I think you asked for that one last time. I love your consistency. We got some time here at the end. We'll pop into some of those. All right. Apple. Now here is an interesting one. Take a look at Apple. Let me just put all our indicators on here that we're using right now. Volume we were talking about. I'm going to put on. I got support and resistance. Let's put on my Larry Williams predicted percent R. All right. Again, let's take a look at the right-hand side of the screen. Not the best chart. Ooh, you know what? There's some really quick swing trades on Apple that have been able to do very well for a lot of people. VantagePoint indicated on Friday, Apple's price was expected to turn lower going into this week, right? We got a red neural index last night. We got volume weakening and turning bearish. We got momentum topping out and turning over. So Apple, of all of the markets that we've looked at so far from a tech standpoint, has the most bearish expectation. Apple is telling us that there is a channel that it's trading within. And look, here's the support and resistance, right? Channel, bang, bang. It could get back down here and bang before it goes back up again. But what VantagePoint is saying, if you're sitting there holding Apple, the one-day forecast is saying certain bearishness, and this would have been a either stop out or a take yourself out of position if you were holding a position on Apple. We don't provide trading advice here, but you can see what the AI is saying around that stock. Now, if we run through the 2-day forecast of the trend, we have consolidation certainly. And if we look at the 3-day forecast of the trend, the long-term crossover, what do we have? Certain consolidation as well. So there's no doubt there is consolidation and bearishness when it comes to Apple. So anybody that's sitting there holding Apple, you've got to understand that the indicators, the software, can give you some really good information if you know what it's trying to tell you. And what this is trying to tell you, this is 6 months of Apple, is that it's in a channel, and you should, if you're thinking about it, this is a very short-term trader's market. Using the short-term crossover and catching some quick pops is what Apple's all about right now. Certainly, in my opinion, not an investment, certainly not a swing trade or any type of long-term option. Couple days at a time, grab some profits and go is how I look at Apple based on what I'm seeing here. And I'm seeing bearish to consolidation on Apple. All right, good. Microsoft, another one. This is a really great quick forecast. Again, I'm just going to pop the indicators on here. And by the way, in case you're wondering, you can, if you want to, save these indicators as a default so that I don't have to do this every single time. If I went on here, if you've got the software, just find a blank area and go save as default. And now the next time I open up a chart, I can open it from the default, right? Yeah, absolutely. So far what I've said, Robert, what's an add-on indicator is the support and resistance and the Larry Williams predicted percent R. Those are add-ons. The 52-week look back is an add-on. But by the way, the question from Robert is what comes, what comes with the software. I guess, Robert, you don't have it. So right here, what you see on the screen right now, this is a great question, is available for every single person and more. Volume is available for every single person. I can add that to any chart I want to. So a lot of really powerful indicators that are patented, available right from the get-go. The blue line, the predicted high, predicted low, all of these come with any software investment. So yeah, it's Robert, go to VantagePointForecast.com if you could, please, and we could step through one by one kind of what you're using and what you're interested in. And if there's a fit here, we'd be glad to help. If there's not a fit, that's okay. Not a big deal. I'm just showing you the analysis that I like to use with the AI. So, all right, Microsoft. So we got a bullish blue line here. Let me go back and put on my other indicators. These are the optional ones, the add-on ones. All right. So what we've got right now is we've got Microsoft breaking through resistance, getting deeper into this resistance zone, but momentum slowly peeling off. Look at this. Momentum is slowly peeling off. Volume is weakening, still bullish, but volume is weakening a little bit in Microsoft, indicating today, well, indicating last night at 6:30 that we would expect to see a little bit of a consolidation in Microsoft. We've got a predicted candle that's like right here, almost what Microsoft did today. We had that at 6:30 last night. And what it's saying now about the longer term trend, I don't know why I did that extra though. There you go, 6:30. What it's saying now about the 2-day trend that we saw at 6:30 last night is that there is still some bullishness, and the 3-day trend indicating that there is still some bullishness. So not a big rally, right? Let me check something. Hold on. 52-week look back. What is this? Is an extra indicator as well. This resistance level is a 52-week high. This is the high of the last year for Microsoft, which means price is really gonna try to get up there, but without enough bullish volume and more bullish momentum, it's going to be very difficult. So What I would be looking for in Microsoft is making sure I can protect my downside. I'd likely use that old resistance point or right here as a stop loss or support point, because remember, this trend started way back here. That's a big win, even if I go to that resistance point. Set a stop loss, give it a chance to work itself out, see if it's going to test and retest that high before breaking it, or test that high and then fall off of it. Got a couple of days to sort that out, but VantagePoint is saying, yeah, we still have some room to go up to that 468.35. It's just not going to skyrocket up there. If it moves up there, it'll move up there slowly. So that's what we're seeing from a Microsoft standpoint. Still some bullishness. Let me see if I got any questions. Shaded area. Okay. A couple good questions that I've answered already. If you have a question, pop it into the chat. I'll do my best to pop over there and see what we can see and answer them on the fly. Here's Broadcom. Same situation. Now I'm just going to load this from the default like I showed you, add some of the indicators I loaded into my default before. This Broadcom move, wow. I like to zoom in so you guys can see it better on YouTube, but I mean, I could show you the whole 6 months if you want, or longer. We go back 10 years. Same situation that we saw on the Qs, on the SPY, on XLK, right? A little bit of a pullback, a resistance level that it's dealing with, a little weakening in momentum, a little weakening in strength. This is telling me that I can expect Broadcom to be, you know, from an overall trend standpoint, sideways. You can see it right there on the screen. I would expect it to be trading right around, if not exactly where this gray bar is. VantagePoint forecasted at 6:30 last night. A predicted high of 232 and a low of 225 on Broadcom. What is the high today? 231.77, which is almost 232. And a low of 226. We said 225. So it actually traded literally right inside that bar today all day. And that's one of the great values in VantagePoint, is that clearly knew that was coming based on all the analysis that we saw today. I love, man, when the stock does what VantagePoint's AI tells it to do, I just love when that scenario works out. I'm trying to be funny. We didn't tell Broadcom what to do, but you can see how it performed just like the AI suggested it would. All right, here's a couple others. Here's Netflix. You can see the same situation. We had a nice trend up in Netflix. We got a pullback the last couple of days. The question is this a pullback? Is this something that's going to fall off a cliff? Can I position myself to profit? I'm going to load the indicators I see on here. And what I see from a Netflix opportunity is that there is a bullish buying opportunity here on Netflix based on what we're seeing right now. There is a little bit of weakening in momentum, not a whole bunch. I don't know what happened to my volume. Let me go find my volume indicator here. So we still have some good volume. Matter of fact, it's not weakening. You can see it increased and then it pulled back over the last day, but there's still some bullish volume left in this. It looks like Netflix could be at a 52-week high. It is. It set a 52-week high the other day, so it's gonna challenge this high probably for a couple of days. And if it can get some more bullish momentum or even some more bullish volume, it could break that high and set a new 52-week high. But don't expect that to happen anytime soon. As a matter of fact, the way I'd be looking at this is waiting for a breakout of 1196.50. When I get a couple of candle closes up there with increasing momentum and increasing volume, then I know I've got a bullish breakout. But right now, I need it to let itself fight itself out around this 52-week high. And look, in my opinion, sometimes the best trade is the one you don't take until it's time. And this may or may not be the case for you. But for me, I can tell you Netflix has something it's got to sort out before I feel really confident about taking advantage of that trend. And once it sorts that out, if you didn't already capitalize on this Netflix move, then personally, I'm not telling you what to do, but personally, I would be waiting to see what happens after it breaks this 52-week high. This is a one contract move, $22,000 hypothetical gain. Take your premium off that. Let's say you made $15,000 up to this point. You could lock in those gains. You could set a stop loss. You could protect your downside. Whatever it is you want to do, we need it, in my opinion, to break that 52-week high. Give me a couple of candle closes above that level so that I know we've got bullish breakout happening. Otherwise, if it keeps on failing at that resistance level, which is 1196.50, then I can expect it to pull back some. But it'll be very important to see what the overall sector does moving forward. All right? Good. Good, good, good. And one that, oh, check out Live Ventures. This company is an acquisition company, right? They're a holding company. They buy stocks, excuse me, they buy companies and they turn positive cash flow. It's one of those companies that, you don't think of, but the AI identified a very powerful bullish forecast right at the beginning of April. And from that forecast all the way up until the close yesterday, excuse me, look at that, 187%. This is a grand slam. Like, this isn't going to happen all the time. I want everybody to understand that I know that. I came across it the other day and have been tracking it. And when you look at it and you say, is it possible to find parabolic moves like that? And the answer to that question is yes. If you're using technology like our artificial intelligence and you have the ability and the wherewithal to trade through earnings, there is opportunity to do this. And this isn't the only one. I can show you 3 or 4 that have really had some incredible moves on it like that. Last but not least, Tesla. A lot of people ask about Tesla every single day, so I like to cover that one. Tesla's long-term forecast, the 3-day forecast, says there is consolidation happening. We're still expecting some higher highs and lows. We have a level that we've got to think about up here at 350. The AI is indicating that there could be some more bullishness on here. The 52-week high, plenty of room to the 52-week high. You can see that it's dead center between the 52-week high and the 52-week low. And VantagePoint is indicating some bullish consolidation. So this thing is expected to continue floating higher based on what we're seeing from an AI standpoint. Let's put on our verified support and resistance for those who'd like to use those indicators. Look at that, getting deep into this zone and approaching this other resistance level. If volume is weakening a little bit and momentum is weakening a little bit, I just got to be cautious. It doesn't mean it's going to go down. It just means I have to be prepared to protect my downside, maybe stop losses below 330, 325. But either way, what I'm looking at here is that there's still bullish expectations here. Not expecting a Tesla rally or anything like that, but certainly expecting Tesla to continue slowly working its way higher as long as XLK and the rest of the markets cooperate at this point. All right. Hopefully that's valuable for all you Tesla lovers out there. I am a Tesla lover myself, so I can't complain about getting some good analysis on Tesla. All right. All right. Let's see. Well, curious what your system saw around 423. What day was 423? Well, VantagePoint forecasted, I assume you're talking about Tesla. VantagePoint forecasted a new bullish trend on 424. That's what it was saying on 424. That's when the forecast was for bullishness, right? We had momentum indicating bullishness. We had volume indicating bullishness. We had predicted strength, predicted trend, all saying bullish. And if somebody used that information to ride this trend until, heck, we can go to today, there's 31% in 18 trading days. All right. Oh, you're asking about Pony. I don't know. Let's look. We got a couple. We got UNH. Let's pull that up. We got DXY. That came in earlier. And we got Pony. All right. Let's see. Pony. Don't have Pony. Not sure what stock Pony is, but remember, VantagePoint doesn't forecast for every single stock on the market. As a matter of fact, it is impossible to get an accurate forecast for every single stock on the market. Pony AI is one of those that's not in the software at this point. Doesn't mean it's not a good stock to trade. It just means that the AI can't get at least a 70% accuracy. You see, we don't just pump out forecasts to say we forecast stuff. We have a very high standard. If it can't get forecasted with accuracy up to 87.4% and as low as 70%, we don't include it in our software. We have a very high standard. All right, so let's go look at DXY. Is that who was asking about DXY? So from an overall, Barbara. Okay, all right. So how I like to look at that is obviously through the ETFs, but you can see that from a United Healthcare standpoint, here's the first one we're looking at. Bearishness expected. We do have a bounce off of a support level here. We have momentum changing. Let's put on volume. Let's see what we got. Let's put on our 52-week high to see if we're bouncing off a 52-week low. And we are. So we have a lot of things shaping up for bullishness on United Healthcare. As a matter of fact, the one-day forecast said we could expect some United Healthcare bullishness today, right? The crossover, there you can see it. Neural index, green. Momentum went from bearish to turning bullish. And momentum and volume, excuse me, all saying bullish, bullish, bullish. So we got a fresh move on United Healthcare. And I believe you could have capitalized on that the last, at least today, utilizing that information. Now the question is it sustainable? Well, I like to use the triple cross to see if prices have risen above that T-cross long yet. They have not. So if I'm thinking about United Healthcare from a bullish standpoint, it is a very quick opportunity. If I'm thinking about it from a swing trading standpoint, I want to get prices above that T-cross long before I have permission to be bullish that. So hopefully that's helpful for you. You know, the AI is saying that there is some bullishness on the horizon. There is some bullishness on the horizon, right? It's about when. There you go. Thank you, Mike. Mike says Pony IPO'd November. That is why the AI cannot forecast for it. It needs enough data to train the AI to learn. Remember, AI utilizes big data, millions of data points. It's something that just IPO'd 6, 7, 8 months ago may not have all the data points, but we can certainly check it out. All right. Marvell, MRVL. Last one before I go. This one is for you, Charles. Let's take a look. Question on the table is, how do you know when to enter at the cross? Well, the crossover comes out at 6:30 at night. So let's use this example on Marvell. 6:30 at night on this day, I knew that this trend was expected to go higher with a high degree of accuracy. It's not perfect, but everything is saying bullishness on the horizon, okay? I have a choice. I can wait for the market open and see where it opens and, you know, put a limit order to buy it at the open. I can just do a market order when it opens if I know, which market orders kind of scare me. I can also use the predicted high and predicted low of the next trade day to set a limit order so that if the market comes to that place and fills it, I'm in. A lot of different ways to do it depending on how you like to trade, but it is the next trade day when the market opens at 9:30 that I'd be making those decisions based on what I see from an open. The reason I don't do a market order the night before, and this is just personal preference, is that if this thing gaps up or gaps down, right, and I've got a market order, it could affect my whole position because of the gap. So I wait for the market to open and then I make a decision, or I just use a limit order to say, hey, I want to buy somewhere near what VantagePoint was predicting or somewhere near the close of the day before, and I use a limit order. I either get filled or I don't. And either way, I'm okay with it. If I've got to go work and do something else, then fine. But using a limit order is a way to go about that. That's a personal preference, but Angela, hopefully that answered your question. All right, so right here, we got consolidation happening on Marvell. It's going right along with the tech sector, by the way. We can see it happening, a little bit of pullback. The question is that a pullback? Is that a dip to buy? Is that a time to exit that position? Well, the short term 1 day says a couple of days ago, said, you know what, take your profit. The 2 day, and I always like to check all of them, says consolidation, but still consolidation. And the 3 day says bullish consolidation. Momentum and strength are bearish, bearish, bearish. Yeah, I'm protecting my downside on this one. If I got in here, I got to think about taking an exit to lock in a profit, but that's not a guarantee. It's just about, did I hit my target? What does my trade plan say? What are the predictive indicators saying? And what we're seeing here is enough of a pullback in Marvell that I got to protect the position I'm in, but keep an eye on what happens to the overall XLK sector and what happens from the Qs and the SPYs. All right. All right. Let me see if there's any questions. You're welcome, Jeff. You're welcome, Jeff. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that, Charles. You're welcome. Thank you for being here, everybody. As you can tell, I enjoy providing any insight and education. Just a reminder, I'm not providing trading advice, and I'm not telling you what to do with your money. But I think you can see by now that the artificial intelligence and VantagePoint can give you an edge over other indicators and other traders. So if you've got some questions, our phone number is in the chat. You can click on the link in the chat. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, subscribe to the channel. We'd love to give you whatever information or insight that we can. For now, if you're part of the VantagePoint family, thank you for being part of the VantagePoint family. And for everybody, thank you for letting me give you the view from my vantage point. I'm signing off, and I'm going to head home. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.